Welcome to our latest Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Today we are headed to Nicodemus, Kansas for our latest walking tour video. This video is a gateway to discover the incredible history and cultural significance of this town, which was founded by African American pioneers during the Reconstruction era. Our tour begins here in front of Township Hall. Constructed in 1939 with the assistance from the Depression-era Works Progress Administration Program, or WPA, this building went well beyond its role as a government building. It became a vibrant hub for the community, hosting a variety of social events and cultural gatherings. From the lively Township Hall socials and Friday night dances to a diverse array of performances, this building was a center for communal activities. During the late 1870s, the black population in the southern United States found themselves in a state of deep restlessness. The promise of the Reconstruction era, which followed the Civil War, had fallen short of delivering the long-awaited ideals of freedom, equality, and prosperity. Instead, they continued to grapple with racial oppression, poverty, mounting debts, and the ever-present threat of starvation. As we take a look here at the St. Francis Hotel, or also called the Schweitzer Residence, this building shows the impressive level of resourcefulness through the use of the building over the years. Beyond its role as a hotel, it served as a residence for the original owners, Z.T. and Jenny Fletcher, and later the Schweitzer family during the 20th century. Additionally, this building played a pivotal role in the early development of Nicodemus by housing the first town post office and serving as the inaugural schoolhouse. As the heart of the community, the St. Francis Hotel connected businesses and families, providing essential services and fostering a sense of togetherness. The town of Nicodemus was meticulously planned in 1877 by two key figures, W.R. Hill, a land developer hailing from Indiana, and the Reverend W.H. Smith, an African-American leader. They formed the Nicodemus Town Company, with Reverend Smith serving as the president and Hill taking on the role of treasurer. The town's name was chosen in honor of a legendary figure who arrived in America as a captive on a slave ship, but eventually secured his freedom. The church held a central and cherished role within the African American community in Nicodemus. It embodied the essential freedom to worship and was a steadfast cornerstone of faith and communal life. Interestingly, it was within the churches of Georgetown, Kentucky, where the first settlers of Nicodemus first learned of this new opportunity and destination here in western Kansas. Ahead of us is the First Baptist Church. The First Baptist Church in Nicodemus has a rich history of providing spiritual guidance and support to the community since 1877. Its humble beginnings saw services conducted in a dugout house, which was eventually replaced by a building with walls made of prairie sod. As the congregation continued to grow, a small limestone structure was constructed, but it soon proved too small to accommodate the needs of the community. In 1907, the historic building that we see here today was completed to better serve the expanding congregation. Much like the town of Nicodemus itself, the church has undergone significant transformations over time. Despite these changes, it has remained a steadfast source of spiritual support for the community. Nicodemus was carefully organized with the deliberate recruitment of settlers. The first pioneer to arrive was Reverend Simon P. Roundtree on June 18, 1877, and shortly thereafter, Zach T. Fletcher and his wife, Jenny Smith Fletcher, who was also the daughter of Reverend W.H. Smith, settled in Nicodemus in July. Zach Fletcher was named the secretary of the town company. These early settlers claimed their land and constructed temporary homes and dugouts along the prairie. During late summer 1877, 308 railroad tickets were procured to transport more families from the south to the nearest railroad point in Ellis, Kansas. Still facing a 35-mile journey on foot, these families reached Nicodemus in September of 1877. In just 1 month, the town celebrated the birth of its first black child, born to Charles and Emma Williams, here in Graham County. The initial settlers, while building homes along the Solomon River in dugouts, encountered hardships due to unfavorable weather conditions. They initially lacked sufficient tools, seeds, and funds to sustain themselves. Nevertheless, they managed to survive their first winter, with some selling buffalo bones and others finding employment with the Kansas Pacific Railroad in Ellis. Still others relied on the Osage Indians for essential provisions, including food, firewater, and staples. Although many persevered, some became disheartened by the arid land and the absence of vegetation, and subsequently returned to the greener fields of Kentucky and Tennessee. However, for those who remained, the spring of 1878 brought renewed hope and opportunities as new settlers began to cultivate the land, marking a turning point in the history of Nicodemus. Zach Fletcher, one of Nicodemus's earliest settlers, played a pivotal role in the town's development. He became Nicodemus's first postmaster and entrepreneur, establishing the St. Francis Hotel that we saw a little bit earlier, and a livery stable in 1888. His wife Jenny took on the role of the first postmistress and school teacher, and she was also one of the original charter members of the African American Episcopal Church that we see right here. The African Methodist Episcopal Church, or AME Church, was initially founded in 1878 at a different location, but it acquired its building and it was occupied here in 1897. During Nicodemus's prosperous years, its spiritual needs were served by this AME Church and several other active churches like the Baptist Church that we saw earlier. By 1887, Nicodemus had experienced significant growth with the addition of more churches, stores, a literary society, an ice cream parlor, a lawyer, another newspaper, a baseball team, a benefit society, and a band. The community's hopes were high as the prospect of a railroad extension from Stockton to Nicodemus was discussed. In March of 1887, the voters of the township approved the issuance of $16,000 in bonds to attract the Union Pacific Railroad to the town. Unfortunately, negotiations between the town and the railroad regarding financial compensation fell through, and the railroad withdrew its offer. In 1888, the railroad established its extension 6 miles south of the Solomon River, leaving Nicodemus isolated and causing businesses to relocate to the Union Pacific Railroad camp, which later became the town of Bogue. This marked the beginning of Nicodemus's gradual decline. Following the failure of rail service, Zachary Fletcher, the town's original entrepreneur, sold his town lots to the original promoter, W.R. Hill, but continued to run his businesses. The St. Francis Hotel eventually reverted to Graham County for a time, but was reclaimed by the family in the 1920s, with Fred Schweitzer, a great-nephew raised by the Fletchers, playing a significant role. When Schweitzer married Ora Wellington in 1921, they made the hotel their home. In 1928, Nicodemus farmers were cultivating substantial acreage, with some managing from 50 to over 1,000 acres each. During favorable seasons, their lands yielded more value in wheat than the actual sale value of the land. However, in 1929, the Great Depression had a devastating impact on Nicodemus as farm prices plummeted, leading many young people to leave the area. The devastation was compounded by severe droughts in 1932, 33, and in 1934, followed by the infamous Dust Bowl days in the late winter and spring of 1935. Entire families abandoned the unproductive region during this time. By 1935, Nicodemus's population had dwindled to a population of just about 76 people and could only support a church, a town hall, and the sparsely stocked store. Most commerce and trade took place in Bogue, which was about 6 miles away. In 1938, the community center was built, which now houses a National Park Service visitor center. This community center was a WPA project during the Great Depression and was constructed from local quarried stone. But by 1950, Nicodemus had only about 16 inhabitants, and residents needed to purchase essentials in nearby Bogue. Eventually, the post office closed its doors in 1953. I hope you've enjoyed this Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure and learning a little bit more about the history of Nicodemus, Kansas. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you on our next Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Take care now. Bye-bye.